Live.
Are we live?
We are live.
Perfect. Okay. So good evening, everybody. Welcome to Allilon Unplugged number 22, live in the Davines Philippine Academy. So we're in Philippines, and I've got a beautiful Filipino model to cut for you today. And I'm going to be doing a curly graduated shape. I know some of you guys last week were asking for curly hair, so we've managed to find some beautiful curly hair to show you. I've started a little bit of pre-cutting before. I've isolated a zone, a square zone. This is going to be zone 1, okay? And what I've done is I've basically cut 2 sections down to the natural fall with no elevation and no tension. And that way I'm creating a weight in the external shape. Now, I'm going to take vertical sections from here, okay? I'm going to use the external shape as my guide. So that way I'm maintaining an element of weight to the shape, okay? And I'm going to cut a round cutting line using the external shape as my guide, okay? The length that I'm choosing will allow itself to fold because of the bend in the hair, which is what I really need to happen. Can you see how instantly the shape's kind of bent round? Now if I went too short, it would go spiky. So now my sectioning pattern will be vertical, like this. Remember, I take sections with the wide end of the comb it through with the tight end of the comb, okay? Section 2 is going to come out from the base, okay? And use section 1 as the guide. So at the moment, I'm working on the base. And every section, I'm pulling it out and cutting a round cutting line. That way, what's happening is, the hair will start to hug the head, as you can see. Now, because of the length I chose, that's going to be so easy to blow dry. It's not going to be bouncing up and it's not going to be spiky, okay? We've got 2 cameras working today. We've got one here which is filming live for Davines Philippines, and we have one here which has been filmed for Allilon Education. So feel free, guys. On the bottom of your left of the screen, on the left hand side, there is a share button. Feel free to share it if you'd like to share what it is that we're doing tonight.
If you care, share.
Yeah, caring is sharing. So, now I'm pulling section 3 to section 2, and I'm going to pull section 4 to section 2. So what's going to happen is my shape will get slightly longer each time, so I maintain an element of length around the front, okay? Comb it once, with a nice, even, consistent amount of tension. Don't let go of what's in your fingers until it's super clean. Then comb the hair down and see how the hair sits, okay? Now I'm going to basically tidy up my external shape, and then once I've dried it, I'm going to tidy all this up and open up and frame the eye. In fact, I can probably do that now if I just bend my knees a little bit.
In the wrong place.
Just film off my shoulders for that, Sammy. So I comb the hair down and I cut it. And let me show you guys a little trick, okay? Watch what I do with the comb. I get the comb, I put the tight end here, like this, okay? So I'm securing the comb in the creases of my fingers. And then what I'm doing is I'm using my thumb to hold the ear down, and then opening and closing my comb in order for me to access the area. So I can fold the ear this way and comb it, I can fold the ear this way and comb it. And what it enables me to do is it enables me to work around the ear without the customer or the model holding their ear down for me. That's a really nice little tip that I gave you, that if you use as from tomorrow, will make your life a lot easier. Okay, now I'm just going to take away some of the excess, some of the hair that has no density to it. The reason why it has no density to it is because of the hairline. The hairline obviously jumps down at that point. So it only gets thick after that point. So I comb the hair down to the natural fall, secure the hair, and then just take away any hair that isn't sitting super clean and super sharp. Okay? Now I'm not too worried about that. What I will do after, once it's dry, is I will come in and I will tidy that up and make that super clean. Okay, so I'm going to move to my next zone now, which is in the back. I'm going to start by taking sections at the nape area, so here, bottom nape. I'm going to groom all my excess hair. Remember, you have to work super clean. Clean sections means clean haircut. Messy sections means messy haircut. Okay? So I'm going to take my section 1, and I'm going to cut it at the natural fall to understand the bend in the hair. So look at the bend in the hair. You can see the fold in the hair. And I'm going to cut it so the hair starts to see how it reacts. Okay? I'm not worried about how clean that line is now, because later on I'm going to probably lift it up slightly higher. I'm just trying to understand the bend, okay? Section 2, it's a diagonal section, so if I show both cameras, that's the angle of my section. Okay, can you see that? Good. Okay, section 2 is going to go down. And again, I'm using the angle of the comb to guarantee my shape. And I'm going to cut a curved line. Again, do not worry about the fact the hair's jumping. After, when it's dry, I'm going to be working at cleaning all that up. Next section, section 3. And as you can see, I'm starting to introduce the hair that's going to sit behind the ear. Can you see that? So at this point now, I'm going to change my approach. I'm going to start to use a little bit of tension. So I'm going to comb the hair down. I'm going to place my scissors and then place my comb. And what that's going to do, it's going to give me an element of tension on my line. And I use my comb like a ruler. So I place the comb on the hair, then secure it with my scissor, and then cut my line in. Okay? I'm going to finish that off at this point here, so I comb the hair down. Don't worry about the position of the head at this point, because I'm using a lot of tension now. And I'm using a consistent amount of tension. So comb the hair down to the natural fall. Look at the root. The root needs to go down, not forward. That's the key. Okay? So can you see that as well with your camera? That area there is the key. That has to sit naturally down. Now I have a shape that will sit behind the ear for me. Okay? Now I'm going to come across like this. So I've cut 3 sections at natural fall, okay? I'm going to come right across the top. So this is now the zone that I'm going to be working on, okay? If you want to come back over here so you can see, I'm going to take a section dead center of the head. Groom all the excess hair in the opposite direction. So now I'm working on the right hand side of my haircut, and this will be, technically, will become my zone 2. Okay? Even though I've cut the external shape by 3 sections, what I'm about to do will be what actually happens within zone 2. Okay? So I groom all the excess hair. I've used a little bit of oil milk, okay, to help me secure the hair. I'm going to take my section, it's going to be diagonal, but it's going to be closer to vertical than it will be to horizontal. So let me take the section and then I can show you. That is going to be my first section. Can you see okay? Mm-hmm. Perfect. There. Can you see that okay? Good. If you can't see, please let me know. And guys, if you have, for those of you who are watching, I know obviously at the moment in the UK, I think it's 12 o'clock in the afternoon. In the Philippines, this evening it's actually 7 o'clock or just gone 7. So if you have any questions, please feel free to ask me. Okay? My first section is coming straight out from the base, and I'm cutting a graduated cutting line. So my shape will be triangular vertically. Okay? You can see the hair's still got an element of a bend to it. Okay? I use the external shape as my guide. Section 2 is going to be parallel to section 1, okay? And I'm going to pull section 2 onto section 1. So this is what you do to control it. You put your finger on the root of section 1. So put your finger at the root of section 1. And then what you do is you take section 2 and you comb it across and then pull your finger straight out. Now I have to be mindful because My model's got a little bit of a scar in the back of the head, so I need to be careful how tight I go. Can you see the scar? So that's part of the fixed analysis, okay? So section 2 is coming to section 1, again with a triangular cutting line, but notice how my fingers are starting to pivot slightly, and you can see as I drop the hair is going to start to become a little bit more curly. The key to this is making sure that the angle of the cutting line is steep enough to maintain the weight internally, but at the same time has enough of an angle to use the exterior shape as my guide. Now in this scenario now, I'm pulling section 3 to section 2, not to section 1 now. So in effect, my number system is 1, 2 to 1, 3 to 2. My cutting line, my elevation and my over direction is what's creating my vertical shape in this scenario, as well as my horizontal shape. Work super clean. I never want to see anybody working messy. Groom the excess hair. If you have to use the ear, use the ear, okay, to make it clean. Now, I'm shifting my body a little bit, and I'm pulling 4 to 3. Again, same cutting line, same cutting angle. And what you're going to see now is my length will slowly increase as I progress through my shape. Because of the angle of my cutting line, my length will start to increase. Not necessarily because of my number system. My number system will increase slightly, ever so slightly every section, but it's not, the cutting line is the dominant factor in regards to how much weight and length I'm maintaining behind the ear.
Did you mention over direction or not?
Yeah, so in this scenario I'm using a little bit of over direction because my number system is to the previous. So like we mentioned before, we're live from the Philippines, okay? We're in the Davines Academy, and we have an amazing team around us. The guys are over there watching online.
Hi, mates.
So today we had a primary shapes course with a group of students, as well as Madeline is doing some teacher training for some of the Davines educators out here in the Philippines. Madeline has been doing colour with them this morning, and we have been doing day 1 of primary shapes. So for those of you who is the first time tuning in to the Allilon Unplugged, welcome. And for those of you who've watched before, welcome back guys, and I really hope you enjoyed part 22. So again, I'm combing it once and cutting it once. I'm trying not to faff. I don't want to overcut the hair. Remember, if you comb it once and cut it once, it should be done. If you have to cut the hair more than once, you cut it wrong the first time. And that for us is part of the process. Getting to a level where you can comb the hair once, cut it once, and not worry about it ever again. So I'm combing everything to the previous, so I'm increasing in my length as I work. And what I'd like to do now is I'd like to encourage any questions that you might have. Feel free to ask them, and Sam will pass the question on to me. Okay? This is my last section. Again, can you see I'm using the outline as my guide? I'd like to introduce someone very special. Behind us is a young man called Armand. Armand's house, his home. He's here practically every day visiting. Thank you for having us in your space, Armand.
Anytime, Mr. John.
So, that was my last section. And you can see the shape that I've created. It's quite a full shape, it's quite a built up shape. And I've got a nice little angle on my outline that's being supported by my initial shape, okay? Good. Now this hair here, what I want it to do is I want it to start to dry into position. So I'm going to use a little bit of the oil milk. This is the oil milk, okay? Amazing cutting lotion, okay? The only thing with the oil milk, you don't want to use too much. Just spray once, twice, and you're done. Don't use this over and over and over and over again. One of the best cutting lotions to use is the Davines DD Mist. It's an amazing cutting motion. You can never really overdo it on the scalp, and you don't really get a huge build up. And if you watch any of the unplugs, you'll see I use it all the time. So again, now that I've wet this hair, I'm just going to comb it down. I'm going to dust the line. Then I'm going to leave it alone. Okay, so that's zone 2 done. I'm going to release the texture a little bit with my fingers.
Can I turn it around into the light a little bit?
Yeah. Let me do that. Is that better?
Yeah.
Can you see better?
Check, just see the texture more now.
Perfect. Okay. So now I'm not going to worry about this outline because I'm going to do that after, once I finish. I'm now going to work onto the other side of the head. So now I'm going to come round. I'm going to go from this area here all the way through to the temple area. I'm going to comb this excess hair nice and neatly out the way. Now I've got to be careful because I don't want to over comb it, because if you over comb it you risk it drying really straight, and then basically you're, to a certain degree, you're drying the curl out of the hair. So I'm going to groom it really well, okay? And then after, before I start to cut it, I need to wet the shape back down. So if you look carefully now, if you look right down for me, you can see the zone in which I'm working. Let me get this a little bit cleaner here. Just slightly circular. Okay, so you can see the zone. Can you see the zone? Come close. Look at it from above. You can see the shape, yeah? Good, brilliant. Okay, now I'm going to come to this side. I'll face this way so the light's really good. Sammy, if you want to come over here. Okay, so on this side, what I'm going to do is I'm basically going to take the hair a little bit tighter, and I'm going to use some quite heavy round graduation, okay? So my horizontal shape will be round, my vertical shape will be triangular, the end result will be graduation. Thank you. Perfect. Okay. So I know that I have a length here that I need to aim towards, okay? So what I need to do is I need to be clever to make sure that the length from the side coincides balance-wise with the length from the back. So I'm going to start in the side area. I'm going to take diagonal sections like this. I'm going to groom the excess hair, and I'm going to look at the facial features, and I want the hair to sit around about the jawline. So if you look carefully, got a beautiful girl, I mean, incredible face, okay, really strong cheekbone. I want to sit the line just underneath the cheekbone, so after the hair will basically stack out at this point. So it will focus on this bone here, which will bring all the attention onto the face. So I'm going to cut it just below the bone because I know it's going to jump higher, okay? So I actually need to go a little bit longer than what I was supposed to do because I need to compensate for the fact that the hair bends.
So first section on the skin?
First section is going to be through my comb. And the irony of this shape is that by doing that, I'm able to adjust and understand. Can you see my weight line? Look. You see where it sits? It's in line with my weight line. Can everyone see that? Good. Like I said, my shape on the side has to be realistic with the balance and proportion of the back. So this is section 2. And again, I'm going to comb this down to the natural fall. And I'm going to establish my external shape. This is going to be a really beautiful shape that you can do in the salon tomorrow if you really want to. Okay? If any of the Filipino guys watching, if any of them want to ask questions, they can, that's not a problem. And then you can ask me the questions and I'll answer them, okay? Okay. Alright, good. Okay, so now my sections are going to go all the way through to the back of the hairline. Okay? I'm going to groom my excess hair really nicely out of the way. This bit's really important because I need to work super clean so that I don't get confused and use the wrong guides. I'm going to use a little bit of a clip just because the hair is so dense. So come around this side, guys, so you can see better. Now, I'm going to lift the hair, so I'm going to lift section 1 and section 2 slightly up and rest it in my fingers, okay? I'm going to comb section 3 onto section 2 and section 1. Now, because now I'm cutting it through my fingers, I'm automatically creating an element of elevation, okay? That now is my guide to work into the back. So I'm going to pivot the chair a little bit. That way you guys don't have to move, okay? I'm going to make sure all this, I don't want to comb that because I don't want that to dry straight. So I'm going to comb the hair into that point. But I'm trying not to overcomb the hair that's been cut. Now you can see the length that I've got here. Can you see from the previous haircut, from the short panel? So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to use that as a guide. I'm going to cut a curved line in, and that will now give me a connection point between these two zones. Can you see that? That little line I've just cut now will give me a connection point between these two zones. I'm going to comb the hair down and cut it as if I'm cutting a line. I'm not worried about how clean it is at the moment because I'm going to tidy that up after it's dry. But at the moment, I'm not going to worry about that too much. Just put the basic shape in to give you a guide. This is section 4. And now, section 4 again through the sides. I'm going to cut it against the skin with in my fingers, so I'm automatically elevating it the same amount as section 3. Because I want this to have an element of density to it. And I'm going to, if you stand still, I'll just keep pivoting the chair. So technically, I should be basically moving my body around the head, but for you guys to film it easier and for you guys to see it better, I'm just going to pivot the chair around, okay?
So you're not increasing the elevation used, you're going to maintain the exactly the same amount each time?
Just on section 3 and 4.
Just 3 and 4?
Yeah. And then what I'm going to do, I'm now just applying a little bit of pressure just to start to stabilise the weight on the external shape and get that nice and clean. Okay, and then I'm going to start to, after this section now, I'm going to start to lift it. Again, the reason why this doesn't look as neat is because I'm trying not to put any stress on this curl here. But you can see the area that I'm cutting is super clean. So in this scenario, my excess hair, I'm working a little bit looser with it because I don't want to pull out the curl. We've got a bit of a lazy curl. It's not necessarily a ringlet type curl. Okay, now this is section 5. Now section 5 I'm going to put in my fingers, but I'm actually now going to elevate my fingers ever so slightly. Okay?
What's your thought process on how much elevation
Good question.
to choose?
Very good question. One of the biggest issues we have when we do any type of graduation using either diagonal or horizontal sections is understanding the discipline of elevation and how elevation works. Now, ideally what we need to think about, sorry, I'll move the chair. Ideally what we need to think about is what is it we're trying to create. I want to create quite a heavy graduated shape, hence why my number systems are moving quite slowly when it comes to elevation. In other words, I'm not elevating from section 1. Go around again. Now my sections are slowly becoming more and more closer to the horizontal. So technically now, I'm going to be pivoting from this point. So my section started here, they've moved up to the recession, and now they're going to pivot into horizontal as I work, okay? Remember, work this area here. Even though that's quite loose, this has to be clean. I don't want any lazy cutting. Yeah? Very, very important. How you look when you cut hair is just as important as the end result. You want to be in control, especially if you're a true professional. Okay? Now again, I need to remember now where I pulled the hair last time. So if you remember, section 1 and 2 had no elevation. Section 3 and 4, my fingers were against the skin, but in my finger, the hair was in my fingers. And section 5 and 6 now is the point where I start to elevate the hair. Again, I'm using quite a heavy shape. I'm trying not to lift too much because I want it to try and match the other side. And what I should slowly do is I should slowly find the guide from the other side, which was the initial shape that I cut. So now, I'm going to take the clip away. If you come and film over my shoulder, it'll be easier for you to see. So, if you come a little bit closer as well, so that you can see over there. Try to come a little bit closer so you can see from that angle. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the previous cut guide as my guide to connect the shape through.
Did you speak about your new scissors last week?
Can't remember, if I'm honest. Otherwise, any questions about scissors?
No.
Okay. Have we had any questions yet?
No.
Okay, cool. Right, that's good, we've done a decent job. Okay, I'm explaining as I go, so.
We're on 424 live viewers.
Oh, that's nice. The time is a bit offset normally. Normally it's a lot later on in the UK.
It was 2,000 last week.
Yeah. Okay, so curved sections, and every section now I'm lifting. The important thing is now is I start to really connect. So it's actually going to go a little bit higher in the back now. Section 6, I'm going to be lifting not quite out from the base. So I'm still pulling down, still building the weight, but I am elevating it a lot more now. And as I'm releasing it, I'm starting to release it so I can see the bend in the hair. I want to start to see the bend in the movement to make sure I'm not cutting out all the curl. Now this now, you can see is becoming a lot higher, a lot steeper. Can you see from the previous haircut, previous shape? So what I'm going to do, I'm going to work around, and as I get to this area, I'm going to come back around this way to make sure that the shape is fluid and connects properly. Because I'm going from a much longer length now into a much shorter length. Remember, I want this to be quite heavy on this side, okay? So now, if you can see now, can you see how there's no connection now? There's two different shapes, two different lengths. So what I need to do now is go from this side, the shorter side, back through and make sure that the shape starts to really connect. You see that point there? That's where it needs to connect. Right from the beginning. So my angle is going to be a little bit more diagonal, and I'm going to connect it through. This bit's really important, the connection point, because that will be the difference between the shape working and the shape visually not working. Last section. Good. Okay, a few more sections and then I'll cut all the underneath and then I can work on the top. So section is going to be lifted slightly higher again. Notice I'm still increasing in length. Even though I'm elevating, I'm still constantly increasing in length because I want this shape to be much more fuller and much more rounder and much heavier. And again,
Tonic, say hi.
Hi boys. When I get to the connection point, I'm going to go back through this way again, yeah? To make sure I'm connecting it in properly.
Sarah Jane Chandler says she cannot wait to take our primary shapes course in Illinois this July.
Fantastic. Well, welcome. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Has she booked in?
I'd imagine so. Yeah. Might have to do two.
Doing a couple. So we are doing a few dates in the States actually. Now that you've mentioned that, Sammy. For those of you who have the option of watching this live now, I know that obviously in different time zones people are sleeping, people are awake, so the viewing is always always fluctuates depending on the time which we're filming it. Obviously we're filming it 7 o'clock at night Filipino time because we've just finished doing the class, and we're going to be doing some dates in America. We've got 2 specific courses that we'd like to talk about. If you are interested and you are from the States and you'd want to take part in one of our primary shapes courses, or if anyone from the Philippines wants to fly to America, the courses are on the 6th, 7th, 8th and 9th of September, and that will be in New York. 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th of September, sorry, will be in New York. And then the 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th of November will be in Vancouver. If you're interested and you want to take part in the course, just email info@Allilon Education, so info@alliloneducation.com, and we will talk about booking you in and sort you out.
She has booked in.
Perfect.
Sarah Jane Chandler has booked.
Sarah, you're welcome. Get ready for
Boot camp.
an awakening experience. It'll be really good. We're gonna try and teach you the Allilon language, which is the fundamental part of what we do. We'll try and teach you the theory of when, why, and how, using our hair philosophy. And don't forget, guys, for those of you who are watching, feel free, on the bottom left-hand side of your screen, there is the share button. Feel free to share it if you are liking what you're seeing, and we can get more and more people involved and share as much as we can. So again, I'm just connecting the last couple of sections through the back, making sure it connects really well, and then I'm going to move on to the top. Tonight's shape we're going to finish quite quickly because the shape that we're creating fundamentally is quite simple, and because we're going to be drawing curly, because we're trying to show off a bit of texture, what will happen is it will become a little bit more time efficient. I'm going to show you different techniques of drying curly hair, and I will show you what products that I'm using, and I'll explain why I'm using them. So we're live in the Philippines in the Davines Academy.
Woo-hoo-hoo.
If I give you a little quick rundown of what I've done so far, for those of you who are joining in now, let me give you a rundown of what I've done. So I started on the right hand side, okay? I basically took a square zone and I cut the 2 sections at natural fall, okay? And then I worked vertical sections with a round cutting line. So I worked 1 to 2, 2 to 3, and then everything came back to 3 to maintain the element of weight, okay? Now what's going to happen is when I'm drying this, I'm going to try and dry this bit smooth so I can really check it and make it beautiful, okay? Make my line, I want my line to be super crisp, okay? Then I came through the back, I took curved sections by the hairline. Section 1 and 2 was natural fall, even 3 was natural fall. Triangular cutting line, and then I came through the centre back. You can see I've got a horseshoe area of this connection working. Took a vertical section and diagonal sections off that, everything to the previous, so 1, 2 to 1, 3 to 2, 4 to 3, 5 to 4, so I gradually got longer. I got triangular horizontally and triangular vertically. Then I came around to the left side, okay, again following my disconnection around the head. And then I've cut taking diagonal sections, section 1 and 2 on the natural fall, section 3 in my fingers, with my fingers touching the scalp, section 4, the same principle, and then section 5, 6 and so forth is where I actually started to increase my elevation. And the reason for that is I want this side to be quite heavy and quite full. Then as I worked into the back, Again, section 1 and 2 was natural fall, no elevation. 3 and 4 and 5 and so forth was elevation. The only thing I've changed is when I got to the centre back, I need both the zones to connect. Don't worry about the outline, because the outline needs refining once it's dry. Okay? You just need a rough shape in there. Then I came through diagonally through the back, trying to connect both zones together, because we've got two completely different lengths trying to connect. Now before I finish that back area, before I finish the underneath area, sorry, I'm actually going to go through now, and I'm going to use a little bit more tension. So if you want to film over my shoulder, this bit's really important. Okay? I just need to make sure that the connection point is really clean. And I need to make sure that I'm using my finger to stabilise my shape. Again, diagonal sections coming through the back. Connecting it from the shorter length into the longer length. Now this is a really beautiful shape that you can very, very easily produce in the salon tomorrow if you really wanted to. And as I'm working my shape, as I'm releasing the hair, I'm encouraging the movement. For those of you who are watching, can you hear me well? Because we've got aircon in the background, which is quite powerful. It's very, very, very hot over here in the Philippines. So we've got a really, really strong air conditioning pumping in the background. If you can't hear me, or if you can hear me, please put thumbs up so we know you can hear me, okay? If not, I'll talk louder. And again, every section,
yes. Kayla says yes.
Good, perfect, thank you. I'm just checking the connection point. Okay, good. Now I'm going to cross check my shape on the side. So I'm going to go horizontally. And as I'm working the shape, what's happening is the hair will start to dry in my fingers because of the warmth of my fingers. And that's a good thing, because I'm going to get rid of all the excess moisture. And I want this to be quite a soft, kind of fluffy type of curl. I don't want it to be a kind of fixed, hard, crispy type of curl. So I'm going to use products that are going to encourage that kind of softness. I'm not going to use any products that are kind of really heavily cream based. Good. Just making sure that all my lines are super clean. Okay? And then I start to release the texture inside now. Comb the hair down behind the ear. And then around this side, just double check this side again. One more time. Just literally lots of pressure in my fingers now. Don't know about the hairline. And every time I comb the hair into position where I want it to be smoother, i.e. around the hairline, and then the internal shape, what I do is I release it so the hair starts to curl and move and bend and become looser.
Have you decided if you'll use any freehand techniques on your shape?
I haven't really decided, apart from at the moment in my mind. Obviously I know I'm going to use a little bit of a chipping technique on the external shape, but internally I'm not really going to use a lot of freehand right now. Don't have a plan to, because I want the shape to be quite compact and quite full. Again, all I'm doing now, guys, is just checking my shape, because with curly hair, because I'm not going to dry it straight, it's important that you double check it before you dry it. Ideally, if the hair was going to be dried straight, I will just dry it and then check it once it's dry. But because we're drying it curly and more natural, I'm not going to get a chance to check it dry. So you need to double check it when it's wet to make sure the shape is shape is super clean. Okay, now I'm going to start to play with my external shape, and then I'm going to work with my area through the top. So tilt the head down as far as it can go, comb the hair down, no pressure. I'm not going to put any pressure on my fingers now, and I'm going to start to really refine the line with my scissor. I'm going to use a chipping technique, okay, which is basically using the tips of my scissors.
Have you got any tips for refining outlines?
Yeah, try not to put too much pressure on it. Try and let the outline react and respond to you how it wants to move. So for example, in this scenario, I can see there's quite a lot of movement in the hairline. So what I'm doing is I'm not over combing it, I comb it once, and then I visually cut it into shape. Same on this side. Try not to comb it into place. Remember, there's no point combing hair where you think it should be. The idea is to cut it to react how it wants to react. Okay, let me grab the small clippers. Just for the interest of time. Just going to take away the longer hair. Get down for me. Perfect. Quite gentle.
Careful, they've got a tooth whistle.
Just removing the excess. So move the hairline so you don't disturb it. And just gently take away the shape. Okay, then comb the hair into position. And this is a good little tip that I'm about to give you, okay? Once you've combed the hair down into position, what you do is you get your model or your client to do this. Do me a favour. I just want you to basically look up to the left and to the right. Just do that for me. Okay? Okay, now put your head down. And that is how it's naturally going to sit now. So now what I'm not going to do is I'm not going to comb the hair. Can you see how the hair is reacting differently? So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to visually cut it into position, because that's how the hair wants to sit. There's no point you combing it and combing it and combing it into position and trying to make it look how you want it to look, when this is how the hair will naturally move. Okay, spend your time like this. Don't waste your time trying to comb it into position. Let the hair move. Let it do what it wants to do. Listen to how the hair is responding and then work with it. There's no point you combing it into place and assuming that it's going to sit there every time she moves. Whereas if you cut it like this, it will always sit there every time she moves. Again, one more time, look up at the ceiling like this, like that. Perfect. Look down. Good. And you can see the more we do this, the more refined. So again, I'm not going to comb it. Do not comb it. That's the key. Combing it will be falsifying the shape. That's a really good tip when working the outlines, guys, because it stops you from assuming the hair is going to sit in a specific position. Good. So if you have any questions, feel free to ask me. If you don't, that's a good sign. It means you're doing a good job and you're understanding what we're doing. Now you can see, I'm going to start to let the air get inside the haircut now. And you can see the shape is doing all the work for me. The haircut is doing all the work for me. Okay, now with this side panel, let me show you what I'm going to do here. So now, because I've put the oil milk in the hair and the heat from the head has naturally dried the hair into position. So what I'm going to do now is with my clipper, can you see how it's touching the tip of the ear? I'm not going to move the ear. I'm literally just going to, with the clipper, I'm going to tidy that line. Now I'm just gently going to pull the ear down, not too much, because I don't want to move the skin. I'm going to tidy that shape. That way the shape becomes really sharp and super clean. And then round the hairline again, I take away what's not working. So guys, on the bottom left hand side of your screen is the share button. Please feel free to share the video if you're liking what you're seeing and you think you've got any young friends or young hairdressing friends or anybody you think that benefits or struggles with curly hair. This is a really good opportunity for people who maybe aren't as developed within their craft to be able to have access to Allilon Education at a young age. And for those of you who are very seasoned stylists, if you're enjoying what you're seeing, please feel free to share it with your colleagues, simply because it will help, it will stimulate people's minds and reignite a bit of passion that sometimes we lose the longer we do hair. Okay, now one thing that you need to do, and you need to do this all the time, is basically remove the hair that you've previously cut. Okay, because otherwise what happens is you assume that it's clean, but we all know what assumption is. So try not to assume, and let's clean all the hair. That way you can really start to see the shape evolving. And you can see what needs to come off and what's good to be left on. I hope you're enjoying what you're seeing. I hope you're liking the shape. You can see the curls are all starting to come alive now. And this area here, you see where the ear is? Again, get your scissors and just refine it. The reason why you do it with your scissor right at the end is because your scissor will give it a bit more of a natural feeling, because the chipping technique will soften the hard line a little bit. Now that's beautiful, because what that's doing, if you look carefully, if you stand back, is it's zooming in, bringing all the attention to the cheekbone of the face. Okay? And then all this beautiful curl, you can see it's drying really naturally, just with oil milk. Okay? And every time, by moving it with my fingers, the hair cut will do all the work for me. I don't have to spend lots of time blow drying this. I want the hair cut to do all the work. Okay, now this front area here and this top area here. Okay, this is my last zone, so zone 1. Section 1 and 2, natural full triangular cutting line. Internally, vertical sections with a round cutting line using the external length as my guide. 1 went to 2, 2 went to 3, and then everything came back to 3 to maintain my weight and my length around the front hairline. Once I cut that, I use oil milk and I comb the hair into this until it started to dry because of the heat of the head. The heat of the head naturally will dry the root, which will give me the control. Then I moved into zone 2, which is the hair behind the ear. Okay? And what I did is I took section 1 and 2, natural full, cut a triangular cutting line. Okay? Then, actually 1, 2 and 3 to establish the length behind the ear. Then, following this connection through to the crown with a circular piece of this connection, it's a bit like a horseshoe, okay? I took a vertical section in the back, then diagonal sections coming off that, using graduation as my end result. Number system, 2 to 1, 3 to 2, 4 to 3, 5 to 4, with a triangular cutting line. I like that shape, I like the way it falls quite soft and the movement kicks in. Then I came down this side, again, maintaining this connection through the top. Section 1 and section 2 came down. Now, a good little tip here, what you could do as well, is you could tuck it behind the ear. You because the ear will allow the shape to dry, and then what will happen is, because of the heat, it will dry, and then what will happen is, after, when I shake it out, this bit will flick around and become a little bit kind of Betty Boo-y, kind of flick curl, because of the warmth from the ear. Now I'm going to work at the area behind the ear. Again, using a chipping technique to refine my line.
Will you guys come to Melbourne?
We don't have any plans at the moment, but we are doing a primary shapes in New Zealand, if that helps you. If you would like to email info@alliloneducation.com, so info@alliloneducation.com, that's ALLILON education.com, and what we can do is we can send you the dates of when we're in New Zealand, and that might be a bit closer for you to get to us. Okay. Now, I'm going to work on the zone on the top now. So I want this to be quite bowly, quite solid looking, quite heavy looking. So what I'm going to do, I know that she's got beautiful lips, so I really want to focus on this lip area. Okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a curved section from left to right. I'm just going to cross this out of the way. And I'm going to cut this, I'm going to cut it using elevation because I want it to be quite soft. I don't want it to feel heavy. Okay? So what I need to do now is I need to comb the hair down, understand where it's going to sit, understand when it curls where it's going to sit. So I need to leave it a little bit longer than I initially want to. Okay? Now the hair, the only thing I'm worried about, if I'm really honest, between me and only you, however many people are watching this, is the fact that the hair hasn't got that much of a bend. Can you see that? It's quite straight. So my concern is I'm cutting a lot of the bend out. So I need to make it soft so I can dress it later on.
Can you just show people why you think that, so
okay, so
in case it's not completely obvious.
Okay, so can you see the bend in the hair? Look, the bend starts at that point. Can you see? That's where the bend starts. So the length that I'm choosing, which is here, the hair is only now starting to rotate into some kind of curl. Don't know if, can you see that? Okay. Can you see the bend? Basically, the bend, the majority of the bend is actually down here on the ends. That's where the curl really starts. So the shorter I cut it, the less bend I have. Okay. So this is what I'm going to do to encourage that movement. Section 1. I comb it down to the length that I want, and instead of cutting a straight line, I'm going to use a chipping technique so that it's quite raw. Can you see that? So I am still cutting a square cutting line, but it's quite a raw finish on the hair. Now can you see what I mean? The bend is not so obvious now. Can you see? So what I need to do is I need to soften that and then freehand it lots so it's really soft. Section 2 is going to be parallel to section 1. I'm going to tilt the head down. I'm going to use the ear to tuck the hair. And now I'm going to pull section 1 straight up, and cut section 2 using section 1 as a guide. And again, I'm going to be quite rough with the line. I don't want it to be neat. I do not want this to be neat because I want to encourage the principles of texture. Okay, now, section 3, Again, I'm going to stand behind. I'm going to comb section 1 out of the equation because I don't need it. Section 2 is going to go to section 3. And again, same principle. So now I'm pulling the hair out from the base. I hope you can see that by looking at the roots. You can see that I'm pulling the hair out from the base. Now I have a remainder amount of hair, which is like a circular panel of disconnection. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a section from the back to the front, dead center, and I'm going to connect the two zones together so it becomes one fluid shape. Okay, so I have my length in the front, which is there, and I have my length of the crown, which is there. So I need to connect these two zones. So I need both of these guides in my hand, which is quite a tricky angle to get. So I comb the hair out from the head. I'll make sure I see the angle. Can you see my two connection points? And then what I do...
Let me come around this way.
Again, I'm cutting it quite raw. And all the sections now are going to be from front to back, and I'm combing the hair out from the base. So my focus now is actually to look at this root here, because this root here has to come out from the base. It mustn't go inwards or downwards, it must come straight out. So again, all I need is section 1 and that last section.
I'm just going to try and show your other direction.
Come and have a look at the root. This side will be easier. Look at this root here, guys. Shoot over my shoulder, Sammy. Can you see the hairs coming out from the base? I'm not pushing it across or this way. I'm coming straight out from the base. And again, using a chipping technique, so it's quite raw. And this will help me encourage texture. It's the last section. Okay, and on this side, we're going to work with the same principle. You can see the hair is nearly dry now. Can you see that? So I'm working almost on dry hair. And the reason why I'm doing that is because I don't want to over dampen the hair, because I want to see how the hair will naturally dry on me, what kind of bend I'm going to get, and where I need to basically start to use any kind of freehand. Now on this side my number system's a bit different. The reason why it's a bit different, on this side I'm using over direction, and the reason why I'm doing that is simply because the hair on this side of the head is much shorter.
Jean is asking why not bring everything forward and elevate your shape?
Why not bring, hello Gina, thank you for the question. Why not bring everything forward, as in bring this hair forward this way and then elevate it? Is that the question?
I think so, yeah.
Okay, so that's a good point. The danger of doing that is I don't have a finishing guide. My guide in the back is obviously my length that I'm aiming towards. So by working the way I'm working now, I've always got my guide in my hand. That way I know my two connection points and how I'm going to connect them and where they're going to connect. Again, keep it quite raw. Do not club cut the shape, because I want to encourage that texture.
Uh-oh. With a model's phone going off situation. Let me get around here.
Okay. So now what's going to happen is the shape will have a bit more of a bend to it. The only thing I have to think about is what happens when the hair falls over this side. I want it to connect in a little bit. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to comb the hair down. Can you see I've got an element of disconnection here? I'm going to comb the hair down. I'm going to comb it in my fingers. So I'm going to use quite a lot of tension. And in this scenario, I'm just going to chip and continue that line working through. Now chipping now in this scenario is much neater. Can you see? I'm doing small little chipping, which is becoming a really clean line. Okay? Whereas around the top, it was much more raw. I was doing much bigger points when I was chipping. Now this side, comb the hair across this way. And with this side what we're going to do is we're going to use the length behind the ear as my guide, okay? So I need this length here, I need it to be in my fingers. And then we're going to comb all this hair with a lot of tension and down, and I'm going to secure it in my fingers. And then I'm just going to connect it through, but I'm going to club cut it because I want a bit more strength on this side. Okay. Now I'm going to start to dry the hair through, but I'm going to use a little bit of product and I'm going to dry it very, very loosely because I don't want it to be a set look. I want it to be a soft, very pretty, very kind of angelic type feeling to it. Okay. So the only thing I'm going to do now is I'm going to use a product which is going to allow me to create a really soft, kind of dry looking bend in the hair. Do we have any salt? Right? Some sea salt spray. So Maddie, colour-wise, what have you done with the colour today?
Absolutely nothing.
Absolutely nothing. which is we did the best possible colour in this scenario, which was 0.
She had a new mask from Davines, which is it's a nourishing hair mask designed for bleached and highlighted hair. I find it works really, really well on curly hair to give it a bit of shine and a bit of flexibility. We're also going to use Johnny's beautiful model for the show that we're doing here. So it seemed like a bit of a risk to put any colour in it today because it faded and a bit of a root on it by the time we came to the show. So I will make sure that there's a photo posted when we've done the show and all the colour and the cut and everything together with the outfit as well. Show you what it looks like, which is completed.
Thanks, Mama. Okay, spray. So this is the sea salt spray from Davines. Okay, don't be scared to use that. And then I'm just going to use a little bit of oil. Okay, from Davines.
Broken.
No. Work a little bit of the oil. I'm going to work it in on all the baby hairs around the front of the face and then work it into all this hair here. Remember, I don't want it to be too wet looking, so I'm going to apply my product and then I'm going to dry it very, very, very loosely, okay? So let me show you what I mean by loosely. I'm using the new Dyson hairdryer, okay? Really cool hairdryer. I'm going to use it high speed, low speed, high heat. You can see by the dots, the speed increases and decreases, and the heat increases and decreases.
So slow and hot.
Slow and hot.
Just like you.
Exactly the opposite to me. Okay, just very loosely. I don't want to dry the hair with a diffuser. I want it to be very loose. Okay, so I use the points of my fingers and I just basically gently encourage the movement. Okay. I want the hair cut to do all the work. I don't want to be styling it because I want it to look like how it's going to look when she does it herself.
So you're drying it from underneath?
Yeah, I'm drying it from underneath to encourage a little bit of root lift. Go down through. And by doing this kind of bending motion with my fingers, I just encourage a little bit of extra movement in the root, in the hairline. Remember, I'm not trying to style it. I want the hair cut to do all the work for me. If you have to style the hair too much, then really the haircut's not doing the work. And I always find this a really beautiful way of drying textured hair. Now I'm just going to gently scrunch it, and what will happen is the seesaw will give me that dusty, kind of musky type look. Just start to scrunch the fringe, scrunch it with my fingers. In the root here, and you can see because of the way I've cut it, I've encouraged that extra bit of texture. Now that it's almost dry, just really start to get your fingers in there and rough it up. Let the haircut do all the work. Wherever the haircut has been cut to do, that's how it will sit.
Steve Vargas has just called you a youngster.
Called me a youngster?
Yeah, I thought you'd like to know. He says he's just an old barber watching the youngsters.
That's a beautiful comment because right now, I'll be honest with you, I had a 35-hour journey yesterday. I was flying for 35 hours. I was in Portugal. My son had a fantastic football tournament in the Bernabéu Stadium. And then I flew to London and flew straight out to the Philippines, which took about 24 hours in total. So, feeling very delicate today. So thank you for the compliment. Okay, so just direct the hair a little bit of the root. Just only because I want to show off this short panel, you see. So can you see here, I just dried it a little bit away from this hair here so I can see the underneath. I'm just going to scrunch the hair through. Please feel free to, if you're enjoying the video, if you're enjoying the live, Facebook Live and the Allilon Unplugged, please feel free to share it. Okay, now, just going to get a little bit of oil, a tiny bit, not too much. I'm going to start to work it into the hair, just to give it a little bit of something. I love the fact that the hair breaks across the face. I like the fact that the shape's built up quite high. I like the fact that I can see, obviously, the shorter panel through here. Let's make that shorter panel really look neat by getting a little bit of oil, rubbing it into the hair. And I really want to isolate that zone, so I really want to show off the haircut in that area. Okay? And then behind the ear,
I think the world needs to see these lips.
Comb the hair out. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to give it a very, very light spray with some hairspray, and I'm going to spend a little bit of time on the exterior shape, just really polishing and giving it that last 10%. So I'm going to use a strong hold hairspray. Encourage it with your fingers. Take your head to the side. Get all these little baby hairs. Okay. And then I'm just going to use the clip up when I find it, which is in your hand. Perfect. Head down for me. I'm going to use the clipper to just dust off any neck hair. And I'm going to use a chipping technique. Just on the outline to refine the outline a little bit. Remember, I'm not trying to comb it into place and cut it, because that's not how the hair wants to set. I hope you guys are liking what you're seeing. Comb the hair down, I want it smooth so I can see it. And again, just secure it with the comb. And with a nice sharp pair of scissors, just refine the line. Good. Just going to de-hair, numb it a little bit. I can have that off you. And then what I'll do is I'll run through what I did, step by step, one more time for you. Just to give you a very, very clear idea of what was done here today on my beautiful model.
What brand of scissors are you using, finally?
Okay, so at the moment I'm using, we're using the new Allilon wings. Let me show you them. They're gunmetal grey. They're literally brand new. I only got them, what, a week, 2 weeks ago?
Let's hold it there a sec. Look at it. Focus in. It's not going to focus. Focus.
They're super, super pointy, so we can do lots and lots of detail work.
Doesn't want to focus.
They're basically 5.5 inch. They're straight edged. They're very, very strong blades, and they're actually my favorite scissors. So they've always been my favorite scissors.
How much are they?
Off the top of my head, I can't remember, if I'm honest, which I should do, but I can't, so I'm sorry. But if you go on to www.alliloneducation.com and look at our products, you'll be able to see them. Would you mind standing up for me? You can order them if you email info@alliloneducation.com, or if you live in the Philippines, if you contact Davines Philippines, they will gladly organise it for you and sort you out a pair of scissors. So, this is my final look. I love the texture, I love the fact that the hair bends around the face. The Okay, she's got incredible lips and incredible cheekbones. So I wanted all of the hair to kind of focus on this area. Okay, let me tell you what I did to start with. I started my haircut on the side area, and what I did is I basically took 2 sections, combed them down to the natural fall, established my external shape, then worked vertical sections coming off that point with a round cutting line, 1 to 2, 2 to 3, and then everything back to 3 to maintain a little bit of extra weight and length in that area. Then I took away the hairline where the hairline was slightly weaker in the front, just to get some definition in there, okay? Then I came around the back, head down for me, perfect. Came around the back, I took a section in the centre back, I took diagonal sections, initially it was close to the vertical, with a triangular cutting line. Number system was 2 to 1, 3 to 2, 4 to 3, 5 to 4, so I built my length and my weight behind the ear. Now I love the fact that it's got that little kiss curl behind the ear, and I love the fact this is quite airy and quite dusty and quite soft. I don't want it to be too neat looking. I want it to be quite soft and quite kind of dry looking. Then I came around this side, and what I did is I took 3 diagonal sections. Section 1 and 2 were natural fall in my fingers, no, against the skin, sorry. 3 and 4 were in my fingers, and 5 and 6 is the point in which I used elevation. I kept this side slightly heavier, okay, and I worked round into the back, and then when I got to the area which was a lot shorter from the previous side, I then came through diagonally this way, connecting it through. That was what I did in zone 2. Zone 3 was in the top, and what I did, I took a section from left to right, I combed the hair down. Look at that, look how beautiful she is. She looks incredible. I took the hair down to the natural fall, head up for me. I put the hair length a little bit longer than the lips because I knew it was going to jump, and I used the chipping technique. That way it falls a bit softer and it encourages the bend in the hair, okay? And my length initially through the side, sorry I didn't mention it, but I cut it so it sat just underneath the bone, so that way when it jumps higher, it just sits onto the bone and exposes the bone, okay? Then I section 1 and section 2 were on the base, section 3 were on the base, and then I came from the back with vertical sections from the back all the way through to the front, back to front with a round cutting line connecting my length in from the crown into my length in from the top. I used the salt spray, some oil and some oil milk while I was working with the hair, and then I used a Davines strong hairspray to secure the shape. I hope you like it. Remember the little tip with the hairlines, let the hair move and then work it. Don't put pressure on it. I hope you've enjoyed the haircut. Thank you for paying attention today. Thank you for joining in Philippines Direct. And if you want any scissors or if you want to know any information about courses, please email info@alliloneducation.com. And I will see you next week again in the Philippines. Next week we've got a special Tuesday because during the day we have the CSA training, and then in the evening we're going to do another haircut for you. So thanks for my beautiful model. Thank you for letting me cut your hair, and I'll see you guys next time, okay? Thank you so much. Bye-bye.